Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We have officially arrived in Wingo, Kentucky at Kent Williams' property for his annual beekeeping school conference that he puts on. 4-hour drive. I shouldn't complain. I know there's a couple here from Pennsylvania that drove 12 hours, so 4 hours really is nothing. But gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous property that he has out here. Let me see if I can show you a little bit of the lay of the land. I mean, it's just, he's got acres upon acres, but he's got nice fields out here, some woods in the back. And I have officially marked this spot right here. I told Kent this is the Josh Scott KOA campgrounds. So I called dibs on this spot. It's secluded back here, surrounded by trees, and just very peaceful back here. I enjoyed staying here last year. So I'm going to be here, 2 days? Today is, what is today? Today is Friday, April 25th. And it's about, 4:30 here. And I'm going to be staying until Sunday afternoon is probably when I'll take off. And so what's the plan here? I think I've mentioned this before, but if not, the entire reason that I come here is to follow Kent around like a little puppy dog and hope and pray to absorb just a little bit of the massive amount of bee knowledge that he has. It's really cool because there's all sorts of beekeepers here of all ages, all experience levels, and he will do whatever you want. Brand new beekeeper. I've never done a hive inspection before. Come on, let's go do it. How do you do a mite wash? How do you do oxalic acid treatments? He's got about, I don't know if you can see him in the background there, but I think, what do you tell? I'll ask him here in a minute, but I think he's got like over 50 hives here or something. I think he runs about 400, 500 commercially. But at his property here, he only keeps, 50 or so. What am I interested in? Obviously, I don't need to see how to do an inspection or how to do a mite wash or how to do miticide treatments, etc. But if he gets in a colony and he sees European foul brood, he sees sac brood, he sees chalk brood, I'm interested in learning more about identifying diseases. Thankfully, I have not had a lot of diseases in my apiary, so I've not been exposed to that. I've seen it in books just like the rest of you. But I have not seen European foul brood or chalk brood or sac brood or God forbid, American foul brood in person. I'd love to see it. I don't wish Kent's bees any ill will whatsoever. But Kentucky actually has a pretty significant European foul brood problem, according to our state APS Dr. Amanda Skidmore. So if you're a commercial beekeeper, odds are it's somewhere in your apiary, right? I would think. But yeah, that's what I'm interested in. Plus, Kent does grafting. He's already done some grafting, and then he kind of demonstrates his queen banks. So I'll try to get that on film. I'd like to do some more grafting myself while I'm here. I probably have already uploaded this because I recorded Kent. He was in Louisville last week, and he was kind of talking about how he does cell builders. And so if I haven't already uploaded that video, which I think I will before this one, stay tuned because I will put it up there. I got to show you guys what he gave me. Yes, I'm a Kent Williams fanboy. I admit it. But I walked up and, just said hello to the guy. And I told him I wanted a Kent Williams hive tool, because he modifies his hive tools. And actually, I think Man Lake used to actually sell a Kent Williams hive tool because he makes it thinner on the little J hook. And I said, I'd love to have one. And he just hands me his. So he handed me the one that he's been using for years. I mean, I feel like a teenage girl at a boy band concert or something. I don't know. I don't have a good analogy, but that made my freaking day. This is going on the shelf in the living room, I think. But how freaking cool is that? Yeah. So everybody that was sitting around was like, "What the heck? Oh, I didn't know that." So I'm like, well, Kent loves me more. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. basically I plan on uploading a series of videos. I don't know how many I'm going to record while I'm here. Depends on how much space I have. I'll try to do at least, 4, 5, 6 maybe. Try to keep them to maybe 30 minutes at a time, The longer videos tend to, I don't know, people kind of lose interest at times, and I understand it. Who wants to sit there for an hour and a half or something? But Kent is amazing at just monologuing, and I just point the camera and shoot and listen and try to absorb some of that bee knowledge. And so that's mostly what I'm going to be doing here. So this video series is going to be kind of a Kent Williams Q&A. And if you haven't had a chance to meet Kent or listen to him, he's an amazing storyteller. And the guy just has a wealth of beekeeping experience, and it's all stored right here. The guy, I'm serious, he's a Wikipedia of bee knowledge in his head. And he's forgotten more than I will ever know about beekeeping. And I mean that sincerely. He's a rock star. There's a reason why he's world renowned as a beekeeper. And I'm blessed to only live 4 hours away from him, where I could come over here and harass him and bother him and try to pick his braid. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. What else? I'm also having fun. I'm going to be camping, may have a campfire, sleeping under the stars. And as far as Josh is concerned, this is a little slice of heaven. So to get to play around with bees 12 hours a day next to Kent Williams and then go camping at night, it doesn't get any better for this country boy in Kentucky. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. So let's head up to the barn there. I'm going to try to hook up a router to his Wi-Fi so that I can obviously not burn through data and stuff. I thought about doing a live Q&A on my stream, like a live stream, but it's going to depend if I can get that. If I can get that internet hooked up. Kent's like, do whatever you want to do. So I brought it's a TP-Link repeater. So I'm going to try to bridge the gap between his house and his barn to try to be able to get Wi-Fi out there. And if I could get Wi-Fi in the tent, that would be an added bonus. My Pacers are playing the Bucks tonight, Game 3. Pacers have a 2-0 lead. Yes. So I'd love to watch the game tonight, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I don't know how fast Kent's Wi-Fi speed is out here in the middle of nowhere in Wingo, Kentucky. So anyway, that's it. Just want to give you a little summary about what this video series is going to look like. So let's get up to the pole barn there and talk to Kent.
What about me? I think I'd like to be here. Men don't live as long, and you're old.
What all did you guys get into today?
Well, we started out by cutting cells out of cutting some swarm cells and supersedure cells out of a nuke.
Okay.
And making a couple of splits
from those. Okay.
With those, and we took.
Don't you have to be real careful though, because of
Sure.
the queen's wings and her legs at the end are real delicate,
sure.
right?
I mean, as long as you're not pitching the thing around or
Okay.
dropping it, you're not going to damage it. But we took those cells and used 2 of them out here, and I had a fella coming to get 2 queens today. He'd got some queens, and for some reason they didn't survive the introduction.
Okay.
2 of them didn't. So I told him I'd replace those queens. And we went back in the field and caught 2 queens and put a cell in.
Okay.
Where those queens came from.
So you took the mated queen out and you put a cell in?
Yeah.
Right away?
Right then, yeah, right then. And after doing that, it was about lunchtime then, gave them the queens. And it started raining after lunchtime. We went back with the intention of setting up a cell builder.
Okay.
And then grafting and putting the graft in the cell builder. But it started raining pretty hard, and the bees really weren't too kind.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we decided that it may be a little bit wiser just to come back here and talk about it. And in the meantime, Kalisha and Rick went over to another bee yard and pulled a frame that had some larvae in it.
Okay. To do some grafting.
Brought it back here so we could practice grafting.
Okay.
We didn't do any real life grafting. I mean, it was, but no cell builder to put it in.
Are we going to do any tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of grafting tomorrow.
Kent, when you do your cell builders, do you take frames from a donor colony and shake nurse bees it, or what's your method?
The donor colony is the colony I'm grafting from.
From.
Yeah.
So you pull a frame out of that colony, graft from it, right? And then
The first thing I do is set up the cell builder.
okay.
I do that first, and shake all the bees, or brush. I don't shake them. I brush them all off into the bottom box and put all the frames of brood in a second box and refill the bottom box with frames. All the bees are in the bottom, queen excluder over that, all the brood in the top box over the queen excluder. Leave it for a few hours, and overnight's preferable.
So all those nurse bees will move up through
all
the excluder
nurse bees
into
move
the
up.
yeah. Okay.
Those are the bees that you want in the cell builder.
Right.
And they all move up, come back, and pull 4 frames up. And my preferred method of setting up a cell builder is to put it in a 5-frame nuke. Use a 5-frame nuke for a cell builder because they're a lot easier to overcrowd.
Yes.
Than a 10-frame box.
Because you want massive amounts of bees in a cell builder, right? Yep. Tons of nurse bees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I used 4 frames of a lot of capped brood. I'd rather have capped brood. Number one, there's nothing there bees can make a queen out of, or very little.
And the new bees that emerge will be nurse bees, correct?
The new bees that emerge will be nurse bees. They're going to be emerged within a week and a half.
Okay.
And that's going to leave open comb that the bees can use. But I'm going to put that nuke. I get 4 frames of bees and brood in the cell builder. Then I take 4 additional frames and brush the bees off into the cell builder.
The nurse bees that had moved up into the top box, right?
So I've got 8 frames worth of bees.
Okay.
In that cell.
So it's just boiling with bees, right?
So far, it's boiling with bees. I move the original hive onto another bottom board and place the nuke where it catches all the foragers coming back.
So even more bees are going to be coming in.
So you've got 4 to 5 times as many bees as should be in that box in there. And in the center, when I choose a frame and graft from it and put the graft right in the middle, put a small pollen patty right on top of the graft, about like this, right on top of the graft, and
feed syrup
a
also,
pop
right?
bottle full of really light syrup.
Light syrup, okay.
On it, and that will make you cells.
So the idea behind this is the nurse bees need lots of food to be able to produce lots of royal jelly to feed those cells, right?
Yep. Plus, it makes a big difference having foragers that are already bringing stuff in over and above what is available.
Okay.
And you can look at that like the foragers are bringing in the daytime food, but at night they're not bringing nothing in.
Right.
But you have this.
But you have the food up there
that's available at night. So you've got 24-hour feeding going on, and some of it is natural with the foragers bringing it in. Some of it you've provided.
Okay.
And you'll make a lot of queen cells.
Awesome.
With that.
And how many grafts are you placing in these 5-frame nukes? How many cells?
Well, I used to put 72 in there. And out of the 72, I'd probably get about 60.
Okay. 55
to 60 cells made. But I've started using a different piece of equipment, these Easy Peasy cages. And
Easy Peasy or JZ Beezy?
Easy Peasy. Yeah.
I keep all these straight.
Yeah, I know it's a play. I'm sure it's a play on the name, but can't be made to fit those 36 cup bars that I have. They're a double bar about this wide.
Yeah.
And these just can't be made to fit it.
So you have to use. Is that theirs? Is that?
Yeah, this is
Easy Beezy's bar.
Easy Beezy.
Okay.
It's made to fit
in one of those frames, those cell builder frame, or
right.
Oh, okay.
It's made when your cells are built out and capped. You take that and it fits. And so you can graft, allow whether you got a starter and a finisher or a starter finisher, doesn't matter. As soon as the cell's capped, you can put these cages on it and it's turned into a virgin bank. at that point.
And they cap it at day 9 or 8?
No, they cap it at about late on day 5.
Day 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So when are you returning to put those on? Like day 6, day 7?
Yeah, day 6.
Okay. Do you need to make sure that there's no nurse bees on those cells when you?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, and then
blow
put it on.
and
Okay.
put it on.
Can they feed virgins that emerge through that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And what it amounts to is a live incubator.
Okay.
And that's you don't have to worry about being on the spot to feed the queens when they emerge in an incubator.
Wow. Yeah.
The bees will keep it the right humidity and temperature. You don't have to worry about your thermostat going crazy or electricity going
out,
off.
and all these queens are dead. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you will have some dead queens in this virgin bank.
They'll kill them.
They'll quit feeding them.
They'll starve them.
They'll starve
The
them.
ones that aren't good.
Right.
They can smell probably the ones that.
The bees will, if they perceive that queen don't have the potential to be a good queen,
they'll starve them.
They'll quit feeding her.
Wow.
And they'll starve her. All of them won't be starved, but if you have, this holds 15 cells, 15 cups. If there's 15 on here, you can bet that 2 or 3 of them are going to be starved out.
Okay. So then when you go in there, you remove the frame that has this bar on it.
Yep.
I mean,
what I do is I have mating nucs set up, ready to dump virgins in.
Okay.
And I just pull this frame, put it in a nuc box, carry the nuc box with me to the field, because the bees that are on that frame will keep everything right.
You don't shake the bees off. You keep the bees that are on there. Okay.
And when I get into the field, it's just a little twist motion, and you pull that off. Virgin queen's in there. I take one of those spray bottles with
syrup,
light syrup with honeybee healthy in it, and I just put a light spray across the top of the mating nuc, and just rub some on my finger, and
that masks pheromones, so they won't.
The queen will track over that and get that on her feet. That tarsal gland, that'll mask that tarsal gland.
Okay.
And the bees will be actually attracted to it instead of curious about it, wanting to kill it.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I take this and I will, after spraying both of it, I'll make sure that, tap that, get the queen down in the bottom, take it out, and just lay it on right in the corner, the back corner.
Not in the middle.
Not in the middle.
Okay.
Back corner of the mating nuc. And virgin queens have a gland that produces a pheromone that repels other bees.
Which gland is that?
Virgin queens, the gland, it's the anal gland.
Anal gland?
Anal gland,
okay.
Yeah. It's only active in virgin queens.
Virgins.
It's not active in mated queens. So.
And it does what again?
It repels other bees. Now, it's only good for about 5 seconds. But as she's moving across the frame, you'll see the other bees kind of scoot out of her way.
Wow.
And then they'll kind of fold in behind her. So it don't last very long, just long enough for her to get away from the bees that might want to cause some problems for her. And so when I dump her in the back part of the hive, that gives her plenty of time to get her bearings before she actually crawls into where the other bees are. And by that time she's got they're grooming themselves, grooming the syrup off of each other, and they'll groom her too, and they'll
pretty much accept her as their virgin.
Okay. They pretty much do.
And then she'll go on her. Don't you dump the virgins in like late so that they go on their mating flight the next day?
I dump them in the morning.
Okay.
And they usually go on the mating flight that day.
That day.
Weather
permitting, obviously. But okay.
Well, of course, you're not going to be dumping virgins in the rain.
That's true.
It's going to be a pretty day when you're doing that.
Okay.
So that's why I feel like that's why we get such a high acceptance and a high return on our virgins that we dump in. But there's several parts of that are kind of important. One is the virgin needs to be a week old.
Okay.
A 1-day-old virgin is not going to take a mating flight that day.
So you make sure they're stuck in those queen banks for a week?
Yep.
Okay.
And most of the time, we do things on a 1-week rotation, raising queens. We'll graft once a week. And when we first start grafting in the spring, we'll graft, and 2 days later, we'll pull the graft and put 2-day-old cells, started cells, in mating nukes, 3-frame mating nukes, 3 frames of bees. They'll finish that 2-day-old cell. But pretty soon, the mating nukes are all going to be obligated, and we're going to have to let the bees finish the queen cells. And it works out just about right that by the time that first round of 2-day-old cells are emerged and either have come back or have not, one or the other, by that time we've got week-old virgins.
Wow.
And we can just kind of keep rolling it over. So our work is most of the time it's a Monday Tuesday thing. We'll pull the graft and put it in a bank, and we'll put a new graft in on a Monday, and then on Tuesday we'll go around and check mating nukes to see if queens have come back, and if they have, then the last week's virgin graft, the virgin bank, we'll install those.
You'll install those into where? Into new mating nukes?
Where we have pulled the queens that came back.
Oh, you pulled the queen. You removed the mated queen.
We remove the mated queens, put them in a queen bank or a nuke or something if they're mated. If they have started laying, we'll put them in their own nuke or make a split or do something with them. Worst case, we'll put them in a mated queen bank. We don't mix up mated queens with virgin queens in a queen bank because they'll ignore the virgins.
Okay. Wow. So how are you making your mating nukes? Are you just pulling 3 frames from a queen right colony, placing it into a 3-frame mating nuke? 1
frame of larva, 1 frame of cap brood. Or maybe it's 1 frame that has larva on one side, cap brood on the other. But at least a frame of larva and cap brood.
That keeps the bees.
1 frame of food.
That keeps the bees present, right?
Yeah. The larva holds the bees in there.
The larva holds the bees in there.
The cap brood gives you a little bit longer life to it, so your queen doesn't have to immediately come back and just slam into starting laying.
Okay.
And we put 1 frame of food in it and 1 empty drawn comb.
Okay.
And that's our 3-frame mating nuke. All of those frames full of bees, covered with bees.
Okay, from the donor colony.
From the donor colony.
Okay.
And that mating nuke, most of the time, will keep going all summer long.
But they're queenless, so will they not try to make emergency cups from the eggs of the brood frame?
When you put your cell in there, they won't. That will keep them from making it, because one key component to that is you're hanging a vertical axis cell in there with the larva already started in it.
Okay.
And that's the stimulus for them to finish that and not make their own.
Okay. But I thought you were putting the virgins that had just you're dropping a virgin in there.
At first,
okay,
for about the first 2 weeks, we're putting 2-day-old cells in.
Oh, okay.
And that lets us roll the cell builder over more times. 10 days, 2 weeks is 2-day-old cells, and then we change and start allowing virgins to emerge, and that gives us about a 2-week time period there.
So they'll choose to make that cell or the 2 cells that you put in there queens, and will not make emergency from. Okay.
Usually not.
Because is it more work to draw a vertical sort of queen cup off of it?
No, but it's a stimulus. If it's hanging vertical,
then that's
the stimulus.
That's the stimulus. Yes. Okay.
It's not necessarily more work. It's just that this one's already there and already started.
And how much time in between when you get the mating nukes ready to when you either drop a cell or drop a virgin in?
That day.
That day. Okay.
Do everything quick. I mean, I know that some books recommend waiting 48 hours or
I've heard 2 to 20 hours or something.
That is not smart, because in 48 hours, or if you wait 2 hours to put a cell in there, they've already recognized they're queenless, and they've already begun setting about making another queen. 2 hours.
Okay.
So go ahead and do it right then. And if it's 4 hours or 5 hours, so what? But if you wait 48 hours, they're going to have a 2-day-old cell
Yeah.
of their own
Oh yeah.
that's going to compete with yours. And that's not good because they're going to choose their own. They're not going to pick yours.
Well, I mean, how soon will bees recognize that they're queenless?
30 seconds.
Is that the queen mandibular pheromone that dissipates, or lots of her pheromones they just recognize that?
Well, there's no it's almost like all of a sudden they don't have any record of having a queen in there.
Okay.
All the pheromones are removed. The queen mandibular pheromone is removed. Of course, now some of that mandibular pheromone will still be in the process of traveling out
Of the retinue,
and coming back. But when it travels out and comes back and there's no queen to feed, that's when they're recognized.
Because I mean, I'll get in a colony and I'll pull the queen out to mark her, and you can already hear a roar.
Exactly. We did exactly that today.
Yeah.
I caught a queen, pulled her out. About the time I got her marked, you could hear the noise. You could hear the roar.
Yeah.
And you see bees fanning the Nasinov gland.
Exactly.
And
they're trying to get her to come back.
Right. That's a dead tip off. They're trying to find the queen.
Okay. Now, is the reason why the books recommend 48 hours is because what they're saying is the hive needs to know that it's queenless to have a better acceptance of you dropping a virgin or a cell in there?
Is
that their
that's the claim.
That's the claim. Okay. Yep. Okay. But you're saying by using the
thought is you want that hive, and this is a common phrase that's thrown around. You want that hive to be hopelessly queenless.
Yeah.
Well, 30 seconds, they know they're hopelessly queenless.
Okay. And your trick with the sugar syrup and the honey bee healthy will increase the acceptance rate. Okay.
Yeah. Now that cell, any hive will accept an uncapped queen cell. Any hive. Laying workers, they'll finish it. They'll make a queen out of it. You put a capped cell in a laying worker hive, they'll chew it up because that capped cell has a pupa in it that the glands are already starting to work. And they see that pupa as being competition and a usurper. But the uncapped cell is a larva, and it don't have body parts. It's got segments, and they will finish that larva. And when in the process of finishing that larva, their pheromones get into that larva as they're feeding it and as they're finishing the wax on it, and that larva becomes their own.
Can that correct a laying worker situation?
It will. Oh. It will correct a laying worker situation.
Okay.
Because once that virgin queen, she don't even have to emerge. She's already begins to suppress their laying instinct.
Their ovaries.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Now, if she takes a mating flight and don't come back,
then they'll start laying again. Yeah.
Right.
I thought, is it the open brood pheromone that suppresses laying worker ovaries?
That's part of it, but it's
too?
queen mandibular pheromone.
Okay.
It's juvenile pheromone. All of that plays a part in suppressing it.
Okay.
Of course, you're not going to have any juvenile pheromone in there if you've got a laying worker hive that there's no larva in it.
Right.
And you just put a 2-day-old queen cell in it. The only thing suppressing the instinct to lay and the production of eggs is the queen pheromone coming from the virgin queen.
If you have, let's say, a queenless colony, and you're trying to get another, mated queen in there. Let's say you drop a frame with swarm cells in there or something. Let's say, worst case scenario, none of the queens come back mated. The clock is ticking. Eventually, this colony is going to turn into laying worker. Can you put another frame of eggs and young larvae in there to give you more time?
Most of the time, not.
Okay.
Once a hive develops laying workers, most of the time, you're not going to correct it by getting them to raise their own queen.
Okay.
They're not interested in that because they're the queen.
They're the queen. Okay. Except, like you said, if you put a cell in there that's still uncapped, they will.
Yeah, they will. And the other method of dealing with a laying worker hive is to, middle of the day, trade places with a big queen ride hive. Put the big queen ride hive where the laying worker hive was, the laying worker hive where the big queen ride hive was.
The foragers will kill the laying workers?
Foragers will whack those laying workers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty entertaining.
Now, didn't you say that every hive has a laying worker or two, and
There's some all the time.
but the bees can sense their eggs.
Well, the bees are cannibalizing the eggs
Okay.
as they're being laid. But there's some all the time, and you can see them in the hive if you know what you're looking at. They're the worker bees that, and you'll actually see them trying to lay, putting their abdomen
in a cell.
In a cell.
Okay.
But it's never a bunch of them, and when they do lay an egg, it's cannibalized almost immediately.
Because it's a haploid.
Yeah, it's a.
And how can they
it's
tell
not
the
really
difference?
a haploid.
It's not okay.
It's not really a haploid. They will develop into
a drone.
A viable drone.
Okay.
But most of the time there'll be a runt. It won't be as big of a drone as
the bees can tell the difference between a laying worker's drone and a mated queen's drone. Okay.
Yep. A laying worker's drone will have that worker's genetics.
Okay.
And it don't have genetics from a drone, just like any drone has no genetics from the drone that mated the queen.
Right.
But a laying worker's drone will have the genetics of the worker, which are different than the genetics of the queen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they can smell that.
Yep, they can tell that.
And they'll cannibalize the eggs.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, the way I've always dealt with laying worker hives is just taking the colony and combining them with a queen-right hive.
That works too.
And I've always put an excluder between the two and newspaper is that necessary?
I just, usually, most of the time a laying worker hive is not as big as the one that you're combining it with. I usually just put it on top of the one that I'm combining it with and tell them that you deserve what you get.
Okay. And will the workers in the queen-right colony seek out and kill the laying workers?
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the nurse bees that do it. It's always
the foragers.
The forager aged bees. They may be guard bees, but it's always the older bees that do that. The nurse bees aren't good at killing other bees.
Right.
Because their stingers aren't as active, and they're not the killers. They're the feeders.
Wow.
So it's the older bees that do it.
The executioner stage,
right. And at night, when dark, night gets there, all the older bees are in there.
Right.
So it's if you do that in the morning, they may have a run. The laying workers may have a run of a few hours there that is fairly peaceful. But when it gets dark, it ain't good.
So what about a laying worker colony? I mean, they still have foragers. Those foragers are not seeking out and killing the laying worker?
No, they don't care.
They don't care. Because there's no queen pheromones present, right?
Right.
So the queen pheromones then is what tells the foragers these worker bees do they have a funny smell? Is that how they're able to seek those?
They have a different smell.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's the queen being present that triggers those foragers to seek and kill the laying workers.
They're loyal to that queen.
Okay.
And they're loyal to the hive.
Right.
And those laying workers are not from their hive. And they have no scent from their queen.
Okay.
They're foreigners, and they're gonna seek them out and kill them because they're laying something that is going to be detrimental to their queen and their hive. They're not going to allow that.
Interesting. Yeah, the times I've had laying workers is when I was trying to get a mated queen returned and wasn't successful, for whatever reason. She got eaten by a bird or whatever.
Yeah, and it usually takes a few days.
Okay.
When I find a hive with laying workers, I know that it could have been avoided if I'd caught it a week earlier.
Okay.
Or a week and a half earlier. It could have been avoided. But, you can't be everywhere at the same time. And when you're taking for granted that this hive is queen right and everything's going good, you just don't think about going into it at this time of year. Big honey flow going, you just don't think about going into it and looking for laying workers.
Right. I did a inspection last week, and I saw a frame, and it had 15, 20 cells with multiple eggs in it.
Yeah.
But then right next to it was single egg right in the middle, standing straight up, and I had a marked mated queen in there. So I don't know if she was just trying to get her bearings, or
could have been. But if you see a cell that has an egg stuck in the middle of it, you got a queen in there.
Yeah.
And but what's her name? That Vicky had some pictures of a frame of larva that she had that was pretty freaky looking. It's interesting, but at first glance you think, wow, she's got a bad case of laying workers. But there would be a half a dozen eggs, just like you threw them down in the bottom of the cell. But there would be one standing up in the middle. I don't know if it was a queen that didn't have control over her ovipositor.
Okay.
Or if it was a queen and there were laying workers that were coming along and scattering a bunch of eggs in there. I don't know. But the really freaky part was there were some cells that had 3 and 4 larvae in them developing.
Wow.
At different stages.
What?
They'd have like a 5-day larva, a 4-day larva, a 3-day larva, and a 2-day larva. And they're all developing all at the same time. I'd never seen anything like that.
Wow.
So you never...
Wouldn't the bees cannibalize
I
down to
would
one?
think.
Yeah.
I would think. I can't explain it. I don't know. But I don't care how much experience a person has. There's always that new thing that comes up and you think, wow, I never saw that before.
Never seen that before.
Didn't see that coming.
I had an experience like that a couple days ago. I was changing out bottom boards. I had a screen bottom board, and I wanted to put one of those Apime pollen trap bottom boards in there. And pulled the box off, and was getting ready to swap out the pollen trap and the bottom board, and just out of, I think, good habit, just scan your bottom board to see if the queen happens to be on there or whatever. And usually there's half a dozen bees, 20, 30 bees crawling around on the bottom board. There was one bee on that bottom board, and which bee do you think it was? Big old green dot on her. I go, what are you doing down here by yourself? I couldn't believe it. As God and my dad was there, so he witnessed it. I've never had that happen. So it was funny. Hi, puppy. How many colonies do you have here, Kent? I meant to ask you that.
Right now we probably have about, I would guess, around 60 here at the farm.
Close. I said 50.
And then we have 120 something about 6 miles away on canola fields.
Yep.
And then we have 40 about 3.5 miles that way on canola, and we have 54 about 3 miles that way on canola. But another thing that you read that is plainly not true is that bees fly 2 miles, 2 miles for forage, maybe a little bit over if they have to. There's forage here. We have bush honeysuckle that bees have been working. We have clover. We have forage here. These bees from here are flying to canola fields.
Okay.
They're bringing in canola pollen, canola nectar.
Which is closer, right? Oh, no.
3.5 miles.
Oh, further.
Yeah.
They prefer that nectar over what's the bush honeysuckle?
There's so much of it.
Okay.
There's so much canola nectar. Mandy, shut up.
So if there's multiple nectar sources available, they'll be picky.
Yeah. They will gravitate toward the one that is the best source.
Even if it's further away.
Even if it's further, obviously. I mean, yeah. I would not have thought that.
Yeah.
I would have thought, well, those are out of reach,
more
which
efficient.
is why,
yeah, right.
And that's why I set the yards close to the canola patch. Well, they're flying there from here. I could have left them all here. Actually, they would not have flown 6 miles, I'm sure, but they would fly 3.5 that way and 3.5 that way.
Approximately how far can a bee fly for foraging?
This is another thing that I've read, but I don't know. I've read that in desert situations, that for water, that bees would fly 7 to 8 miles.
Oh, wow.
But I have no way of verifying
right.
that and knowing if it's true. I do know they'll fly 3.5.
Yeah.
Mandy.
Well, that worked.
She said, "Oh my gosh, they're shooting at me."
Now, we were talking about colors, Kent. So you said it's actually not bad to paint your boxes red, that bees just recognize that the same as gray,
Right.
and that bees can see multiple shades of blue,
Yeah.
and that they see yellow, orange, and green the same.
Right.
Okay.
Bright yellow,
bright.
bright
Okay.
orange, bright green.
Okay.
I was speaking to ag group of high school kids in Wilson County, Tennessee, a few years ago, and all the boys in there, they're teenage boys that they had all their tractor stuff on, and there's one kid you could tell that he was kind of an alpha,
Okay.
and he had John Deere everything
Oh,
on,
head to toe.
yeah, head to toe, and we were talking about how bees react or relate to colors.
Yeah.
And he was being the alpha guy, he was not really paying attention and doing attention seeking things. Well, one of the guys that was there with me, a fellow named Jim Murph, and he said, "We need to take some questions." And what he called the boy's name, said, "Would you have a question for Mr. Williams?" And he looked up and he said, "No." He said, "Do you know what we've been talking about?" "Yeah, you've been talking about bees." I said, and he said, "Been talking about how bees see and how they perceive things and how different their eyesight is than ours." And the boy said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Do you know anything interesting about that?" And he was really putting the boy on the spot.
Jeez.
He said, "No." He said, "Oh, well, I bet Mr. Williams could tell you something interesting." And I said, here's the most interesting thing that I can say that you could relate to." And they had a bunch of bee boxes and stuff. They had a bee yard there at the school that the kids attended. And they had a bunch of bee boxes, all these cool patterns. They had pictures of tractors and pictures of bees and everything and flowers. And in their little industrial arts department that you walk through to get to the classroom. And so I knew that they'd been looking at stuff and thinking about beehives and how different colors and different symbols. And I said, "Here's something that you could probably relate to. Honeybees see bright green, bright orange, and bright yellow exactly the same. They react to all of it." He said, Carl von Frisch figured that out back in the late 1940s. And I said, the way he did that was set up bowls of sugar syrup by a different color. And one bowl would have heavy syrup, one bowl would have plain water, and the other bowl would have syrup that had an additive, like anise is what he used.
Okay.
And I said he would swap those up. The bees gravitated toward the color or whether they gravitated toward the source. And they gravitated toward the color if it was associated with that source. And that's how he figured out that bees see orange, yellow, and green all as the same. This kid was like, I said, what that means to you is, to a honeybee, your John Deere looks just like a Kubota. his face just kind of fell.
You're speaking his language now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh my God. That's hilarious. Are there any other colors that they see similarly?
Gray and red, obviously. They see shades with red in it and with orange in it. They see red-orange as different from red or orange. Okay. So that's something they see different. You add a little tint of yellow to it, and they see that as different. When you start mixing the colors, they see them as slightly different.
Okay.
But the blues are what is most interesting, because they see shades of blue that we can't differentiate. And because bees see in the ultraviolet range, and we can't see that. We don't even have filters, because we don't know what it's supposed to look like.
Oh yeah.
So we don't even have filters that can mimic what a honeybee can see in the ultraviolet.
And talk about the shapes that they recognize.
Well,
Solid versus.
honeybees don't recognize a shape at all. They look at a triangle the same as they look at a circle, the same as they look at a square, as a hexagon. What they do recognize is whether that triangle is open in the middle
Or
or
solid.
blocked in.
Okay.
All right, so you could just paint a solid dot of orange and then a circle of orange, and they recognize the difference between that.
Okay.
And knowing that gives you just an unreal number of choices to paint designs on hives. But by painting a yellow Corvette on the front of one hive and a yellow F-150 on the next one, they don't know any difference.
Okay.
They react the same to both of them, which makes it funny to go places and see these beautiful patterns, beautiful artwork on hives that people have taken a lot of time to do, that look really neat, and you look at them and think,
it ain't gonna help your queen.
They don't even see that like you see it.
Right.
That's
for the
exactly
beekeeper,
right.
yeah. And it's not going to improve your queen return chances. Okay.
What improves the queen return chance is location of the entrance of the hive, not being just that far from another hive entrance, being in a different direction, and especially something in front of the hive.
Really?
Yeah. Because when the queen flies out of the hive, the last thing she sees is the front of that hive, and the front, maybe the top lid of the hive,
because their compound eyes are up here. Yeah. Okay.
And so that's what she's looking for when she comes back. I used to have a little queen mating yard behind the barn here, and I always had really good return rates from that yard. And I realized at some point the reason was this barn.
Really?
Because the queens fly out, the last thing they see is this barn. And then when they're out there, when they're coming back,
they can
they
the
fly
top
out low.
Yeah.
But they wind up here.
Yep.
So what they're seeing was this barn, and they gravitated
almost
toward that.
GPS back to the barn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like you told us about that virgin today. You stayed there.
Yeah.
Because you were the last thing
right.
you saw.
I dropped a queen in a hive. I took the wrong cork plug out of a queen cage one time, and the queen just jumped out on frame, walked across it, and flew off. And I thought, oh no.
Man,
there went $20.
Yeah.
Of course, you can tell how long it was. It's $20. One of my early beekeeping buddies that taught me a whole lot about beekeeping was Gerald Burchett. He had told me that if you ever have a queen fly off from a hive, just stand there, because you're the last thing she saw to relate to, and she'll probably come back. I stood there 5 minutes or so. I was beginning to get worn out from standing there, and I heard her fly back. You can hear a queen fly.
You can hear a queen fly?
Oh, they flutter. They have a fluttering sound.
Really? Okay.
And so I heard her fly back, and I saw her lying on a stem of fescue there next to the hive, and I was going to try to catch her, and I got the stem of fescue and bent it over toward me, and she just jumped off into the hive. So, I mean, it paid off standing there. I don't know if she would have come back or not. I don't have
Were
no
the bees
idea.
nasing trying to get her to come back?
No. They weren't worried about her because she was a new queen.
She's a virgin.
Yeah, well, She wasn't a virgin. She was actually a mated queen, but she was a new queen. She wasn't their queen.
Okay. Meaning they hadn't completely accepted her yet, right?
They hadn't even met her yet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I had their queen in a nuke over on the other side of the yard, and when I requeen a hive, I usually put her and a couple of frames of bees in a 5-frame nuke, and see if she will improve any. And if she don't, then I cap the queen and add those back to another hive. Add the bees back to another hive. But I had their queen in another hive. This was a foreign queen to them, but they accepted her, even though they hadn't, there was no introduction at all.
Well,
They didn't kill her.
What's your typical method of introducing a mated queen?
Just take a queen cage and put it in between the frames. I usually put it in between the frames, candy tube up, just down in between two frames where the brood is.
Oh, okay.
Just under the bottom, just under the top bar.
Okay. And they'll chew through that candy, and by the time they chew through it, they've accepted her?
They'll go through this candy in a matter of minutes if they want her out. If they don't want her out, they won't chew through it for a while.
Okay.
But usually they get her out the first day.
But what if you see the bees aggressively attacking the queen cage,
I tell her I hope she makes it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any direct because I've done direct introductions before, and I just watched.
I've done that before.
And if they start feeding her, that's a good sign. But I've also seen it where they ball her, and I've had to rescue her. And it's pulling bees off a queen that they're trying to ball is like, they are stuck on her,
Yeah.
Have
you ever walked one in from the front door?
No.
I know a commercial beekeeper that's how he introduces queens.
Just puts her right in the front door. Okay.
Dumps them out right at the front door in the dark.
Oh, in the dark. Okay. So are they less likely to ball her in the dark? Or,
he has good success putting them in. He laughs about it. He says he's taking that midnight walk, Well, but he usually sprays a little sugar syrup at the front entrance and just dumps the queen out. And she, being dark, she don't fly off,
right?
And she'll walk right in. And he seems to have good acceptance.
Wow.
With that. I don't have nerve enough to do that.
How often do you do direct introductions? Not that often. You usually use the
with
cage?
virgins all the time.
All the time.
But with mated queens, never.
Never.
I don't ever do that.
You put them in the cage
the way I introduce them works well enough that I just don't see any reason to do it
otherwise. Okay. But that you do have to come back later on and remove the cage, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually when I take honey off.
Okay. That seems convenient. Yeah. Here's a question: do bees move eggs?
Yes. Well, I don't know about eggs. They move larvae.
Okay.
I don't know if they move eggs. I would say probably not moving eggs because the egg is stuck in a specific way in the bottom of the cell.
Okay.
But I'm positive they move larvae.
Okay.
Because I've had a cell builder before that was made from package bees and drawn comb that had absolutely nothing on it, and there was no queen in the package bees, and I put a graft in there. Two of the cups, like right here and right here, were empty.
Missing. Were empty.
They were empty, and there were two queen cells over here on the side, hanging kind of like supersedure cells. There's no way that they could have got there any other way than something moving them.
Something moving them. Because it was a queenless colony.
Queenless colony, packaged bees, nothing in the comb. They couldn't have got there any other way.
Why would they move it?
I guess they didn't like the cups that I had. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things about bees that I just have to say, I don't know. It's because they wanted to do it.
There's a lot of things I don't know.
know.
That's right. They're fascinating, though. That's the one thing I do know. They're absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and that's what's kept me interested in them. Because they are fascinating.
Oh, you got roosters running around? I thought they were all
I got one.
You got one rooster that...
Yeah.
Well, look at
I
him.
just knew that a possum or a coon would get him the first week that he was loose. He's the one that has survived every menace to chickens.
Yeah, I had a chicken hawk swoop down in my backyard yesterday. I told my wife, I said, I ran out there and clapped my hands and hollered and it flew off, but it's sitting there looking for its next meal. We have a lot of those red-tailed hawks around my woods and property. And I used to we used to have guineas, and then guineas just run off. They're too wild, or half of them got eaten by hawks or the neighbor's dog, and
Owls is what gets most of
owls
ours.
gets a lot of
In
yours.
fact, we lost a chicken early yesterday morning that refused to go in the pen the night before and paid for it.
Paid for it. Yeah.
I think it was an owl. I don't know for sure, but I think
Could have been a
was.
coon or.
Well, usually if a possum catches a chicken or a coon catches the chicken, they usually squall and carry on.
Yeah.
Well, all I heard was a chicken kind of sounded excited or something, and making racket like something was maybe chasing it or wooling it around, and it ate whatever it was, ate its head off. A lot of times owls do that.
Yeah, we were cooping all of ours, but then we have so many ticks. I've got woods around my house, and we've got so many ticks, and of course we're not going to spray because of the bees. So I was hoping maybe having guineas and chickens would help with the tick control. Well, we've been free ranging them now for a couple weeks, and knock on wood, they're still alive, and they go in every night by themselves.
Yeah.
And I got one of those chicken doors
Yeah.
And so far it's working, and they're all over. They stay around. See, guineas they'll just run off. Chickens will stay close to where their coop is.
Guineas don't appreciate housing.
No, they don't. And but we had been told that they're pretty prolific tick eaters, which is why we tried them. But boy, they're stupid. They're a lot dumber than chickens. So they're a lot more skittish
and a lot more noisy.
They are super noisy, very noisy. But
it's kind of a trade-off as to whether I'd rather deal with the noise of a guinea or the irritation of a tick.
Yeah, I hate ticks. I need to ask God why He created them.
So we give you something to ask for forgiveness
for. That's right. So what's on the agenda tomorrow? Are we gonna?
We'll do a lot of queen rearing tomorrow.
Cool.
If the weather's good, which is supposed to be nice.
It's supposed to be, right?
It's supposed to be
nice and sunny. Yeah.
We're going to get into some of these bigger hives out here on the trailer and set up a cell builder the right way and graft and put it into it and try to get some.
The method you just talked about a little bit ago. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And I used to just find the queen and separate her, and I began to have a lot of problems with having two queens in hives. The hives I was picking the graft from or make cell builders of, because they were so big,
had multiple
queens. It was because they had more than one queen.
So you put your grafts in there and they tore them down, didn't they?
Yep. I had one.
So now
years ago.
Now you're shaking all the bees down. So if there's two or God forbid 3 queens, they're all down there.
Well, 3 or 4 years ago, I had a hive that had 3 in it.
Wow. Somebody was telling me, is it John Benham or somebody was saying it happens a lot more than we think it does.
It does. I believe that. I think that it wouldn't be out of the question to say that 1/4 to 1/3 of the hives have more than one queen at some point during the summer.
At some point. Yeah. Especially right now when it's swarming season and stuff.
Yeah.
I was in a class with Dorothy Morgan, the Kentucky Queen Breeders Association, and she was talking about how she does her cell builders. And do you put queen excluders on the front of yours to keep rogue queens from coming in?
No, but I should.
Okay.
I've had that happen before.
Okay.
But our mating nucs are far enough away from our cell builder.
Okay.
Our cell builders are usually right up here, and the mating nucs are quite a ways back in the field.
Okay. But you've had rogue queens come in before?
Yes, I have.
Especially this time of year when, right? I mean, you could have colonies throwing off. I mean, you could have 6 or 7 virgins in there running around, and some of them escape, right?
Right.
And they're looking for a queenless colony.
Yep.
And the bees are probably trying to, if they're queenless, they're probably trying to call any queen in, right?
My problem was always a queen flying out, taking a mating flight, and coming back to the wrong hive. Coming back to the cell builder. And it's a perfect place to come back to. It's packed with bees. And a lot of food, a lot of pheromone in there.
Right.
So it happens. And it don't happen too much anymore to me because I I've learned to keep the mating nukes a long way away from the long way away from the cell builder.
Cell builders. Okay. So so basically you take those, you take the virgins out of the cell builders and you're moving those far away to the mating nukes.
Well, far away, 200 yards.
Oh, okay. It's far enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was having problems, the cell builders would be like here, and the mating nukes would be at the edge of the concrete over there.
So what was happening? The queen was going off on her mating flight, but returning to the cell builder instead of returning to the mating nuke?
Yeah.
Okay. Because of the smell?
I guess it didn't happen that often,
But it happened.
but it happened, and it was pretty devastating to that graft
Oh, yeah.
when it happened.
Yeah.
So you get a mated queen come back to a cell builder, and they're going to quit working on the cells.
And the only difference between these really big, large, good queens and the smaller queens is nutrition, right?
For the most part, yeah.
The amount of royal jelly that
yep.
they're fed. Okay.
There can be a genetic component to that, but it's mostly about nutrition.
Because every worker bee can become a queen. I mean, you know, they're genetics.
Up until it's 3.5 days old.
Right.
As a larva, it can.
Right. Genetically, though, I'm saying the DNA is the same.
Yep.
The difference is how they're fed.
Yeah. And if you have a little runt queen that was made from a 3-day-old larva and you don't care much for it, you have to remember that queen has the same genetics as that big, nice looking queen that you have.
Okay.
So that little runt queen lays a few eggs, bees decide to supersede her. You're still getting that same
genetics,
line.
That same line. Yeah. How many goats you have, Kent?
Heck, I don't know. Somewhere around 26, 27.
And how many chickens?
I really don't know that.
A lot.
I think we have, after the slaughter yesterday, we have 30 out there. We have 18 in the garden pen. We have, I think, 26 or 28 in this one.
Okay.
And then in the oldest chicken pen, they're separated by ages.
There's more than just this pen?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
There's a pen out there,
Okay,
this pen, one on the other side of that wall, and one out at the garden.
Go look.
And so we have chickens that are 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years
Wow.
old, and going into their second
And at
year.
least 2 roosters, because I hear one in there and the black one out here.
There's one big rooster out there, this black one that's a renegade. We have 2 roosters in the garden pen, 4 roosters in the old chicken pen.
They don't fight each other?
No, they figure out who's who.
Who's who?
Yeah.
There's a pecking order even for roosters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Out in the garden pen, there's one rooster that won't even look at you because it's afraid it's going to get whipped. That's because the other rooster, when you go out to the garden pen, it stares at that one rooster and says,
Okay.
if you come down
If
off
you
that
come
roof,
down
you
off
know
that.
what's happening.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Did you have a good turnout today?
Better than I expected with it
With
raining.
the raining? Yeah.
Yeah.
How was yesterday?
It was good. We had probably 75 people here
Nice.
yesterday.
Amanda Skidmore was here.
Yeah,
right?
she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was here.
Yeah, I was texting her earlier. She's supposed to come to my yard sometime next week and do inspections and sampling. So she offers it for free, and you'll get data.
Yeah.
I was asked, certainly wouldn't wish any ill on your bees, Kent, by any means, but the one thing that I don't have very much experience with is seeing disease in person. Have you seen European foul brood or chalk brood or sack brood or anything
Sure.
here?
Yeah, I see it every year.
Okay.
Some of it. It's not like I'm picking up a frame and thinking, my goodness, this is full of sack brood.
Right. Okay.
It's not like that. First year in several years, I pulled a frame out of a nuke the other day that had some chalk brood on it. And hadn't seen any chalk brood in quite some time, but that particular hive had some in it. And that amounts to lack of hygienics in that hive. They didn't recognize the chalk brood as needing to be removed.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a poor hive anyway. I just removed that frame, and I'll toss it in the burn pile.
Okay.
And be done with it. But chalk brood is not that big of a deal here now.
European foul brood, though, in Kentucky is becoming.
European foul brood is fairly prevalent.
Yeah.
But it's it's fixable. The reason I saw one nuke this past week that we worked through about 180 nukes, I guess, this past week, and I saw one that I put terramycin on for the European foul brood, and it was one that I had already put some terramycin on before, but it was not a robust nuke, and that's why. I mean, it didn't have good brood survival just because it had some European foul brood in it. It had bees and a laying queen, so I put a pretty good dose of terramycin on it again, and I didn't see a lot, but I saw.
What is that? An antibiotic? Terramycin?
Yeah. I didn't see a lot, but I saw a couple of discolored larvae. And if I see one larva that's not right, I'll treat it. I'll treat the hive.
Was the larva twisted at all, or was it no?
The first time I treated it, there was a little bit of twisted larva in there, and that was what I was looking at, which is not classic European foul brood. That's actually parasitic mite syndrome.
Okay.
But the same thing treats it. Terramycin treats it, and it usually fixes it. Well, it fixed that, but evidently there was some real European foul brood in there, because I saw some of that 4.5 day larva that was yellow and brown.
Yeah.
The second time that I treated, and I treated again. And for European foul brood, the protocol is to treat with terramycin once a week for 3 weeks. Well, that would have actually pretty well fit, because it was about a week ago I treated. It stopped the parasitic mite syndrome, did not completely fix the European foul brood. So this week I treated again.
Jake says he creates a brood break by pinching the mated queen and then introducing a virgin. Does that treat? He said that fixes European foul brood, I guess.
Most of the time. Okay. Most of the time it does. Most of the time, if you remove the host, you remove the pest, and that you're removing the age larva that European foul brood, European foul brood, and American foul brood, and a lot of other pathogens, diseases, have a 4-hour window in the larval life stage. They have a 4-hour window that they can enter that larval system.
Okay.
And all these diseases seem to come through the midgut.
Yeah.
And the midgut at 48 hours, before 48 hours old for the larva, the midgut the lining is not developed enough for anything to hold in there. After 52 hours, it's developed to the point where it will digest it, whatever comes into it. But that 4-hour window, these diseases can take hold in a larva. And if you remove all the larvae that are younger than 52 hours, then there's nothing for the foul brood.
Nothing for the foul
brood to catch in. And
it's spread by the nurse bees feeding the larva, correct?
It is, yeah. There's nothing for it to catch in, and without the host, European foul brood, the spores don't live but about a couple of days.
Okay.
Is all, without a host.
But American foul brood sticks around forever, right?
American foul brood, European foul brood, the spores never go dormant. Your American foul brood, the spores will go dormant, and that's when they can't be killed.
Right.
Except by a phage. A phage will kill them.
What's a phage?
A phage is what the FDA blacklisted because they got their panties in a wad because they weren't consulted by EPA over it.
Okay.
And University of Brigham Young University and University of Nevada collaborated on this project to isolate the phage. A phage is an organism that feeds on
bacteria
and bacterial spores, and they isolated the phage that fed on Pinobacillus larvae, which is American foul brood. And it took about 2 years. They figured out a way to deliver that into the hive so that the hive, the bees consume it and get it spread into the hive. And this is a living thing. The phages are a living thing. They seek out those spores and consume them and eat them.
Inside the larva's gut, or what? Or
everywhere in the hive.
in the hive.
Everywhere in the hive, they will seek out the...
So essentially, it was an American foul brood cure.
It is. It's not a was. It
Okay.
is an American foul brood fix. You can have. I mean, they had hives that were blown out with American foul brood that they put
Turned them around.
The product was called Brood Safe.
Brood
it was on the market.
Safe or
Brood
Safe?
Safe. SAFE. And the product was on the market for about 4 months before FDA
pulled it.
got the drawers in a knot and said we can't have this on the market, and pulled it. In that time, I bought 15 pounds of it, and it only takes a tablespoon across each end. It's all it takes, and your foul brood is done.
Wow.
So, and it was expensive. It's about
But
it's about $8. It's about $8 a
burning
pound.
an entire colony is expensive
Right.
too.
It was about $8 a pound, or maybe $10 a pound, and so it was expensive, but compared to all the other treatments or all the other remedies for American foul brood, it was nothing.
Right.
But rather than allow beekeepers to have something that worked, they were mad because they didn't get consulted, and now you cannot even find it on the internet anymore. But I've got 15 pounds or 10 pounds. I gave away 5 pounds. I got 10 pounds of it in my garage right now.
How do you spell phage?
PHAGE. And that is
nobody's trying to resurrect it, or nobody's going back.
FDA will not allow it. It is not allowed to be spoken of. It's like the word not to be mentioned.
Wow.
And that is what really ticks me off about bureaucracy.
Oh, yeah.
There's things that will help that are not allowed
because of red
simply
tape.
Because it don't make them money.
Right. Yeah.
They're not making any money off that. But you know what? They come up with a vaccine for queens.
Right.
And I would bet any money that I have that was already in the pipeline, and they knew they wouldn't be able to sell it if these phages got on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd bet anything.
Yeah.
Because FDA approved that.
Right. Right.
Were you here last year?
Yeah.
I
did.
You know he's taping this.
Yeah. Yeah. You're fine. Yeah. You remember me from last year? Yeah. Yep. And that's my camp spot. Again, I told Kent, I'm going to stake a sign over there that says Josh KOA or something, because I love that little spot back in there. It's nice and cozy and quiet. But that's ridiculous, Kent.
I know. I know it. It wasn't going to make any money for him.
Now Dalen or whatever, they're working on an American foul brood vaccine, according to one of their people was on the not Two Bees in a podcast, but Better Bees podcast, Beekeeping Today or something, and they were talking about. But there's a long way to go. I guess it's a lot different than this EFB vaccine. Which why do they call it a vaccine when it's a bacteria? Why isn't it called a antibiotic? Okay,
so it won't be regulated in the same way.
It ain't. It's like I was just like, okay, why are they calling this a vaccine? But apparently they're putting this in candy and then feeding it to the nurse bees that feed the queens, and then the queens become inoculated, and it passes on to their just one round of offspring. So you gotta basically every queen has to be fed this. Yeah.
And you have to feed it again when you requeen. You have to feed it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. Knock on wood, I haven't had a European foul brood issue. I'm sorry, this is for American foul brood. I misspoke. They're working on a European foul brood vaccine that I guess is a lot different. But do you see American foul brood very often? I don't. I mean, thank God. But
there was an outbreak of American foul brood on the University of Tennessee Martin bee yard, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, and they traced it back to a student from East Tennessee that brought bees from East Tennessee to that. They were bees from his dad's farm, granddad's farm, whatever. Brought them to Martin, and they didn't just put a couple of the hives at Martin. They put a couple there and a couple at Como, which is 15 miles away, and a couple somewhere else. And it turned out they had foul brood. Well, they came from a part of Tennessee that is really well known for having foul brood. there's a couple of beekeepers down there that sell bees that are in denial because it would get into their pocketbook. In denial about their bees having American foul brood. They suppress it, but it comes back,
Right.
and that's it
Because
was
the spores go dormant and then
right.
they reactivate, right?
Yeah, and when they come out of dormancy, it's right back, and that was about 5 years ago, and there were several hives destroyed down in West Tennessee, which that's only Como's only probably 15 miles from here, maybe
Really?
20.
Okay.
Yeah, Martin's about 30 miles from here, but there were some hives destroyed down there. But even at that, we never saw any foul brood.
Yeah.
I had American foul brood here that I imported here. It was my fault.
Here at your farm, you had
Yeah.
it. Wow.
Yeah, it took 7 years before I quit seeing an outbreak every year. It got into the feral population, and
yeah.
I wouldn't. The first year I lost 38 hives, and the second year I burned them. I eventually burned them, and the second year I lost like 12, and the third year, from the third year on through the seventh year, I would find one that would have some in it, and I'd burn the frame.
So an autoclave won't kill the dormant spores?
Yeah, but it will kill the dormant spores, but it's you might as well be burning it because you've lost everything. You got the wooden equipment still, but there's no wax, no comb.
Yeah.
The comb contains most of the spores.
Okay.
But there can be some on the wood also. But the comb is what contains most of it. But autoclave will kill them. High heat, radiation, burning, fire. But anything else other than a phage, anything but that, don't kill it. It just suppresses it. The sulfathiazane that they used to use, that was said to kill it. It didn't. It just suppressed it for a lot longer time.
Okay.
And
but
you can still get sulfa medication.
But the brood safe took care of it.
It consumed it. It
Wow.
ate it. I knew one of the guys that, in fact, he came here to the farm from Brigham Young, that was in the field trials of that. And I asked him, how do you get some of that? Well, you have to be in the field trials. I said, how do you do that? And he said, well, you got to have American foul brood. I said, well, I don't. Leave me out of this.
Yeah, no thanks.
But he's the one that called me. I said, well, when this is available, let me know. And he called me and he said, this is going to go on the market to the public in about 2 weeks. So be ready to get some of it. And as soon as it was on the market, I got some of it. And
so they put it on the market without FDA approval?
It was approved by EPA. It was not approved by FDA.
And once the FDA caught wind of that, they pulled it?
Yep.
They just got butthurt?
And not only did they pull it, they got it completely erased from every record.
To make a statement almost?
I guess.
Or like you said, they knew that these vaccines were on the way.
Yeah.
That you could profit off of.
Everything is driven by money.
Oh, yeah. Always. Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, it is. But, that made me understand, later on as things progressed, and not, in human medical stuff, the reason behind why stuff happens and why it don't get to happen. It's money.
Yep.
And nothing surprises me about that anymore.
No. I agree. Well, tomorrow, if you're going through colonies and you happen to see any diseases,
okay.
I would love to.
I've got a colony down here I'll take you through.
Okay.
That it's dying. It's got a drone-laying queen.
Okay.
And it's very obvious.
Okay.
It's a failing queen, failing colony, no hope. It is not going to survive.
Right.
But they have a deep super, mostly filled with nectar that's in the process of being capped.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving it alone, going to let them cap it, and then I'm going to steal it and kill them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to kill them. They're going to
kill themselves. That's right. Yeah.
But that's the kind of colony that has all kind of stuff going wrong with it because their immune system has crashed,
Okay.
and they're going to have
And the population is continuing to go down.
It's continuing to go down,
Yep.
and there's fewer workers all the time, and a few drones that are just freeloaders, and the queen is a drone layer, and it's not getting any better.
Right.
And there's that colony. There's no hope for it because there's no big frames of brood or anything that you can say, well, I could break this down to a single, put a new queen in there, and I think they might make it. Not enough there.
Do you know of anyone that's ever, is this even possible, to artificially inseminate a drone laying queen to correct her? Has anyone ever done that?
I've always heard that after a queen takes a mating flight, you can't do anything.
You can't. Okay.
That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's queen.
I really love this queen. I want to fix her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah, I guess sick colonies obviously would be more.
They'll have more stuff going.
More
wrong
stuff going
with them.
wrong. Yeah, they'll be more
Colony
predisposed.
that's just moderately ill. Moderately unhealthy. A lot of times they can fix what's going on.
Okay.
What's happening in them. Given a decent honey flow and some good weather.
Right.
And a good laying queen. But when one like that, they're not going to fix it. They're not coming back.
Speaking of honey flow, is your bush honeysuckle popping around here?
Oh, it's wide open.
Oh, it's wide open. Ours
There's
isn't
a
wide
bunch
open
up around
yet.
the house up
Okay.
here. And bees are working it, but that it's just a few bees that are working it. Most of the bees
Canola.
are, if you watch where they're flying, they're going like that or like that.
So those giant yellow fields that I passed on the way here, is that
That's it.
canola? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think we have any in Oldham County.
Probably not. We have it here because we're close to a river port.
Okay.
And Bungie is the one that's handling most of it, and they run the river port at Hickman.
Okay.
They have a river port at Hickman, and they might still have one at Paducah. I'm not sure, or Metropolis. But anyway, that's why it's grown here, because they're handling all of it, and they're shipping it down the river to a crushing plant. And most of the oil goes to Europe.
Okay.
Well, starting next year, Chevron is going to have a refinery coming online in 2026 that's going to refine canola oil into jet fuel.
Aha.
And so I'm thinking that canola is going to be
a commodity,
something that is here every year.
Yeah.
The canola growers, I know several guys that are growing it that are members of the canola growers outfit group association. And they said there's 37,000 acres of canola in West Kentucky, West Tennessee, right here along the line. And that next year they're planning on having 136,000.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to expand from just West Tennessee, West Kentucky, expand down into North Alabama, North Mississippi.
Why is it that canola nectar is so predisposed to crystallizing so quickly?
Too much glucose in it.
Okay.
It has a lot higher concentration of glucose.
And the bees are attracted to that.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so next time you come to Louisville, I need you to bring me about 5 pounds so I can make a batch of creamed honey with it and use that as the starter seed.
All right.
I'll put Kent Williams starter seed crystal honey on the label, and I'm just curious how it would taste. I've been told I've never had pure canola honey. I've been told it's okay, not terrible, not great, but kind of in the middle. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's really sweet. It's really light tasting.
Sounds good.
It's almost like nondescript.
Okay.
There's no definite
flavors
to it.
Yeah, just light and sweet.
No, yeah. Black locust honey, I always thought that it kind of reminded me of juicy fruit chewing gum.
Yeah.
And clover honey has this funky taste to it.
Yep.
That I don't really.
You don't care for?
I don't care for it. Pure clover honey. I don't care for it that much. Basswood honey has a more of a medicinal sort of
Yep.
taste. If
My
it's
absolute
pure.
favorite is tulip poplar.
Tulip poplar has a molasses
It
kind
does.
of flavor. I really like tulip
I like
poplar.
tulip. I like it better than sourwood. Everybody goes nuts over sourwood.
I've not had much pure sourwood, but I liked it. What I
Bob
have had,
Benny
I liked
sells
it.
some. He goes to pretty not extreme, but they go to pretty great lengths to what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, ensure that it's just sourwood. You know, like
Yeah.
they will you know, they won't pull frames until I forget what the bees are bringing in right before that, but they wait till that sourwood starts coming in, and then
Yeah.
they'll just pull those frames. But it's got a different, to me, it's got like a butter note to it, almost like a buttery flavor.
There's a girl from Pennsylvania here that she brought 4 different kinds of honey to taste, and one of them is spotted lanternfly honey.
They make honey?
Well, the lanternfly don't, but the bees make lots of honey off the honeydew from the lanternflies.
Oh, I've heard of this.
And
That's right.
you wouldn't believe the flavor that has.
Is it good or bad?
What she has is very good.
Really?
If you like caramel and butterscotch,
Yeah, I do.
it's very good because it has a heavy caramel butterscotch flavor.
I thought we were supposed to kill the spotted lanternfly if we see
That's
him.
what she
You know,
said.
yeah.
She said she's not for, none of the beekeepers around them are for killing
Or
the
for
spotted
killing 'em.
lanternfly.
Wow.
But she also said that it comes down to what sort of tree that the lanternfly is working.
Okay, so
That-
they secrete out some sort of
They
something.
take in the sap from the tree. They can't digest the sugars in the sap, but they can digest the minerals in the water.
Okay.
And all the sugars go straight through. And it looks like the tree is just weeping.
Weeping.
And
the bees tear it up.
just cover it up. Yeah. Now, their spotted lanternfly's tree of choice is a tree of heaven.
Tree of heaven.
And bees will work that too, and they make a really nasty honey off of it.
I've never heard tree of heaven. Is it?
Well, there's a few of them around here, but you just don't ever see.
Maybe that's why we don't really have a spotted lanternfly problem. It's
Maybe.
been identified in Kentucky according to our entomologist, but
they will work maples. And
Oh, yeah.
they'll work the lanternflies will work some other
Okay.
trees. And this girl from Pennsylvania, she said that the honeydew that's made off of where they're working maples and some other hardwood trees, that's the honey that's good, or the
Wow.
honeydew that's good.
I'd say the worst sort of tree insect pest that we have are those stupid emerald ash borers.
Yeah.
They've decimated the ash trees around us.
Yeah, here too.
Okay. I mean, I've got a couple of trees that we try to save by putting a tree drench
Yeah.
around the bottom that has some chemical that starts with an I.
Imidacloprid. Imidacloprid.
Yeah, what is it?
Imidacloprid.
Yes, that's it. And I guess the tree will systemically pull that up.
Yeah, it's a systemic. It's a systemic neonicotinoid is what it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever use you just reminded me when you said that word. What are those? What is that you can sprinkle in the ground in front of your hives and they go in the soil and they kill the small hive beetles? What are those?
Grub X.
What is it?
Grub X.
Grub X? Nah, something they're called neonicotinoids, or what? They're like they're an organism that.
Oh.
What am I thinking of?
You're thinking of nematodes.
Nematodes, yeah.
Yeah.
What do they feed on? The small hive beetle larva, right?
Yeah.
And-
Well, the pupa. They
The
feed on the
pupa.
pupa.
What is a nematode? What is it?
It's a little tiny creature. They feed on different soil organisms.
Okay.
And there's some of them. Some nematodes are very destructive to soybeans.
Oh, okay.
And some, I mean, they're kind of like a phage in a way. They're particular. This nematode
Right.
gravitates toward
yeah.
this to that. But there is a nematode that feeds on beetle larvae and beetle pupa.
Have you ever used those?
No, because I got a beekeeper friend. what's his name? Richard Underhill. Richard Underhill from Memphis area. Well, he's over in Arkansas now. But I was at his place a few years ago, and he had this little packet that he just got in the mail.
Okay.
And he said, I got the cure for our small hive beetle problem. I said, good. And because he had them bad. And he lived in the Delta. His bees were in the Delta, across the river from Memphis.
Oh.
And I said, what is that? Some of those nematodes? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, how do you use it? He said, well, let's just read about it. He said, I just got it. I hadn't even opened it. Well, it had a packet of paperwork with it. And in that packet, it said, do not let this cube of soil dry out. Well, it was as hard as this concrete when he got it.
When he got it?
Yeah. And I said, well,
so much
Richard,
for that.
I'm not sure this is going to work. And he said, well, maybe it will. Maybe I can wet this good, and maybe they'll come
They'll
back.
come back.
Well, maybe, because it said you wet it and you put it into the ground and covered it with some other dirt, and let it kind of spread out and kind of crumble it up a little bit.
Okay.
And let the nematodes spread out and water it. And I asked him, I said, how can you tell that they're in there?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I don't know, but this thing cost me $120.
Oh my God.
And I told him, I said, I just realized that I'm a millionaire and just don't know it. I said, that's just like any clump of dirt I'd get out of the field. I could be selling nematodes. I said, who's to say? I mean,
Yeah.
I send you a clod of dirt and you say, well, it didn't do any good. And I said, well, they must have been dead when they got there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you didn't water
Prove
them
it,
right.
yeah.
Operator error. But he never got any more of them.
Yeah.
So I'm figuring that it didn't work quite the way he thought it would. Now, I'm sure that they work under the right circumstances, but you still have to keep reapplying them, because once they feed on those and there's nothing left, and they don't spread out over the whole field.
Then they'll die. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in a very specific area, and I just I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
About things like that.
I'm fortunate. I don't have small hive beetle issues, and I attribute that to having healthy colonies, and also having my colonies are in morning sunlight.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, the hives that I've seen that have had the worst small hive beetle problems are in dark, damp areas.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now I've had a couple of nucs that got a frame slimed by larvae because they lost a queen.
Oh, yeah.
And they quit being hygienic.
Yep.
But that's the worst that I've had with small hive beetles this year.
Okay.
But they're here.
Yep.